In the world of giant lizards and incredible life forms, which we now call the Mesozoic era, among the many carnivorous and herbivorous giants, one species appeared that fascinated not only with its appearance, but also with its survival strategy: Triceratops, a name that hides an echo of strength, majesty, and defensive perfection. A tricorn skull with a huge collar, a four-legged robust stance, and a prominent presence among other dinosaurs create an image of a creature that was not only impressive to look at, but also ingeniously equipped to survive in a world full of predators. Its appearance still inspires artists, paleontologists, and filmmakers, and rightly so. But what exactly made the Triceratops so special? Where did he live? How did he behave? How did he defend himself? And what may have connected him to other horned dinosaurs? And it is these questions that we will look at together today. Don't expect an ordinary description, you can expect an adventure to the Upper Cretaceous period, when the Triceratops traveled through a landscape that was soon to witness one of the greatest catastrophes in the history of the planet. Triceratops was one of the most impressive herbivores of its time, not only because of its size, but above all because of its unique skull. Its head could measure more than 2 meters in length and carried 3 massive horns, 2 long above the eyes and 1 shorter on the nose. This protrusion was complemented by a massive bony collar that covered part of the neck and the back of the head. This whole structure acted as a perfect shield, and at the same time a tool to intimidate enemies and opponents during intraspecific fights. The Triceratops was built on 4 sturdy legs and had strong muscles that supported its heavy body of over 8 meters in length. Its body was covered with a firm, rough skin, similar to that of today's rhinoceroses. The skull of this dinosaur weighed more than 1/3 of its entire body weight. Nevertheless, the Triceratops was able to move relatively quickly over short distances, which could help it both in escaping and in attacks that resembled the behavior of modern bulls. Despite its robust body and massive weapons, the Triceratops was primarily a herbivore that fed on low-growing vegetation. Its parrot-like beak was ideal for cutting off hard plants, while the rows of teeth at the back of its jaws allowed it to crush and grind food. Paleontologists believe that it could have plucked ferns, cycads, and other plants growing close to the ground. In packs, the Triceratops could represent a dangerous opponent even for the apex predators of their time. Thanks to his horns and threatening stance, he could face the attack of even such a feared carnivore as the T-Rex. Some scientists have even found traces of injuries on the skulls of Triceratops, suggesting that there were direct fights between the two dinosaurs, sometimes for life, sometimes for dominance or territory. Triceratops were found exclusively in what is now North America, especially in areas that now include states such as Montana, Wyoming, and South Dakota. The area was warmer and wetter during the Upper Cretaceous period than it is today, and offered a diverse mix of forests, open plains, and river systems. It was this diversity of habitat that could have been the key to the rich fauna and flora that provided the Triceratops with ideal living conditions. Although it lived at the end of the Mesozoic era, just before the mass extinction caused by an asteroid impact, it remains one of the best preserved dinosaurs. Its fossils are very common, which allows scientists to piece together a comprehensive picture of its biology, evolution, and relationships with other species. In addition, finds from various regions show that Triceratops inhabited a wide range of environments, from swampy valleys to dry, open plains. Although some species of horned dinosaurs lived in herds, the question of social behavior is still a matter of debate for the Triceratops. Some fossil finds suggest that it may have lived solitary or in smaller groups, rather than forming large herds like some of its relatives in the ceratopsid family. Nevertheless, it is possible that the young individuals were protected by adults, or that the males fought among themselves for leadership, similar to today's deer or rhinoceroses. These conflicts may have been ritual in nature, and included bumping skulls against each other, or intimidating them with horns. Relationships between Triceratops and other herbivorous dinosaurs were probably not very conflictual unless they competed for the same food sources. On the other hand, clashes with carnivores could be very dangerous. The Triceratops faced predators such as the T-Rex, which could attack both lone and weakened individuals. In such cases, the Triceratops could have used its horns and collar not only to defend itself but also to attack, as evidenced by injuries on the skeletons of both dinosaurs, toothprints of the T-Rex, and traces of horn strikes on the skulls of carnivores. The life cycle of a Triceratops is a fascinating testimony to the transformation from young to adult. Thanks to a number of fossil finds of young individuals, scientists now know that Triceratops underwent significant changes during growth. Young Triceratops had a smaller collar and less developed horns that grew and changed with age. This development could have served as a way of recognizing age and status among members of the species, or even when choosing a mate. It is believed that females laid eggs which were protected in nests similar to those we know from other dinosaurs. After hatching, the chick probably stayed near the mother, where it was under her protection. The growth of the Triceratops was relatively rapid and reached almost full size within a few years. Adults could have lived for over 20 years, although this still depends on the interpretation of fossil data. The structure of bones and changes in their density give paleontologists valuable information about its biological age and life stages. Triceratops was one of the last non-avian dinosaurs to inhabit the Earth before the Great Extinction at the end of the Cretaceous period. This mass extinction, probably caused by the impact of a huge asteroid in the area of today's Mexico, marked the end of the era of dinosaurs as we know them. Triceratops was thus a direct witness of the last days of Mesozoic dominance. Although his death may have been caused by various factors, predation, disease, or just an asteroid impact, his fossil remains have survived as evidence of his existence and importance. The legacy of the Triceratops is omnipresent today. It appears in textbooks, museums, popular culture, and children's toys. It is extremely important for paleontologists not only because of the frequency of finds, but also because of its evolutionary proximity to other horned dinosaurs. Every new bone, every detail on his skull, reveals another piece of the story of how this iconic dinosaur lived and adapted to a harsh world that was constantly changing. Triceratops is not only a symbol of strength, but also the last chapter of a long-lost era. Triceratops' roots reach deep into the evolutionary branch of horned dinosaurs known as ceratopsids. This evolutionary direction began with small two-legged ancestors that did not yet have horns or distinctive collars. Over time, these first forms evolved into larger species, such as the Protoceratops, which already had the beginnings of the characteristic cervical collar. The evolution continued through medium-sized horned dinosaurs with differently shaped skulls and ornaments until giant forms such as Centrosaurus, Chasmosaurus, or Torosaurus appeared. And it was among them that one of the latest representatives of this lineage appeared, Triceratops. Interestingly, some paleontologists have long debated whether the Torosaurus is just an adult form of Triceratops. The differences in the shape of the skull, especially the size and shape of the collar, were so pronounced that some experts believed that it was one and the same dinosaur at different ages. This debate is still not definitively closed, but most current research supports the idea that Triceratops were a separate genus with their own evolutionary story. It is this diversity of horned dinosaurs that shows how plastically evolution was able to adapt to changing conditions during the Cretaceous period. Triceratops is without a doubt one of the most famous dinosaurs ever. Its silhouette will be recognized by children and adults all over the world. Thanks to its unique appearance, it has become a regular part of films, documentaries, illustrations, and toys. His three-horned head and massive body have become an icon of primeval strength and pride. In films such as Jurassic Park, the Triceratops is often portrayed as a peaceful giant that commands respect but is not aggressive, unless forced to. This image also fits the scientific assumption that it was a herbivore that relied on defense rather than attack. In the scientific world, Triceratops is considered one of the most valuable species in terms of the fossil record. Its skeletal remains are well preserved and frequent enough to allow detailed studies of growth, development, injury, and possible diseases. Each new Triceratops discovery brings another piece to the puzzle of life on Earth at a time when the end of the dinosaur's reign was approaching. At the same time, thanks to its popularity, it motivates new generations of scientists and paleontologists to immerse themselves in the study of prehistory and look for answers to questions that still remain unanswered. The brain of a Triceratops was relatively small compared to its body size, which is typical for most dinosaurs. Nevertheless, he had sufficiently developed parts of the brain that controlled basic sensory and motor functions. In particular, the olfactory lobe was relatively large, suggesting that the Triceratops had an excellent sense of smell. This ability could help it find food but also recognize members of its own species or avoid predators. Due to the shape of the skull and the arrangement of the orbits, It is believed that the Triceratops had a wide field of vision, albeit with limited spatial vision. The dinosaur's hearing was probably not as sharp as that of some other species, but it was sufficient to recognize low-frequency sounds which may have played a role in communication. It is also possible that it used vibrations or deep rumblings similar to today's elephants. Although it was not one of the most intelligent dinosaurs, it may have been able to learn certain patterns of behavior, respond to threats, or navigate familiar surroundings. Comparisons with today's animals show that Triceratops may have had a mental capacity similar to large herbivores such as bison or hippos. The ways in which the Triceratops may have communicated are one of the most interesting, but also the least explored aspects of its biology. While we have no direct evidence of the sounds it made, there are several theories based on the structure of its skull and comparisons to other dinosaurs. Some parts of his skull, especially the large collar and the nasal area, may have acted as resonance chambers. This meant that it could make deep, booming sounds that carried over long distances across the landscape. Such sounds could have been used to warn, intimidate, or call a partner. It is also possible that he used visual signals to communicate. Head movements, threatening stances, or rubbing the horn on the ground could be an expression of dominance or a challenge to a duel. In ritual clashes between males, these signals could be just as important as the physical clash itself. Young individuals may have learned these signals by imitating adults. In any case, it remains clear that the Triceratops were not just mute creatures, but had a complex way of interacting with their surroundings, which could include sounds, movements, and distinctive visual expressions. No dinosaur, no matter how well equipped, has lived without risk, and Triceratops had its natural enemies during the late Cretaceous period. The biggest threat was undoubtedly the T-Rex, a massive predator that hunted other large dinosaurs and had an extremely strong jaw grip. The clash between the two giants was probably intense and brief. The Triceratops tried to turn sideways during the attack so that it could use its main weapon, long horns, to strike its attacker before it could deliver a fatal bite. The horns could pierce even thick skin and cause serious injuries. In addition to the T-Rex, it could also be threatened by group attacks by smaller predators who could choose weaker specimens. In such situations, the Triceratops could seek protection in a group if it associated with other individuals. An important role was also played by its defensive collar, which protected the neck and vital parts of the head. It could also be a psychological weapon in combat. It intimidated the enemy with its size and strength. Despite its clumsiness, the Triceratops was capable of violent lunges that resembled the impacts of today's rhinos. These tactics could often save his life in the wild world of the Mesozoic. When studying Triceratops fossils, paleontologists have noticed interesting differences between individuals. Some had more pronounced horns, others had differently shaped collars. These differences could be due not only to age, but also to gender. Therefore, scientists are investigating the possibility that male and female Triceratops looked different, which would be technically referred to as sexual dimorphism. Males could have longer or more curved horns, while females had thicker but shorter collars or less distinctive decorations. This difference may have played a role in mating. Males could attract females with their decorations, similar to peacocks or deer. On the other hand, it is possible that some of these differences between fossils are related to natural variability within a species. Just as we do not find two identical hippos or rhinos today, Triceratops could differ individually, even within the same sex. This question remains open because soft tissues that would clearly show gender or hormonal signs have not survived to this day. Scientists have to work with skeletal differences and carefully compare dozens of skulls and bones from different places in North America. Every species in the ecosystem has a role to play, and Triceratops were undoubtedly one of the key players in the Cretaceous community. As a large herbivore, it influenced the landscape on which it moved. When it grazed large amounts of vegetation, it helped shape vegetation, creating more open spaces while dispersing seeds, thus promoting new growth. Its migration may have led to the formation of paths followed by other smaller dinosaurs, and its presence may have affected the movement of predators that moved near it, either in the hope of hunting or in an attempt to avoid it. Triceratops were also probably among the species that were relatively resistant to climate change, at least to some extent. Its spread over a large area indicates that it has been able to adapt to a variety of conditions, from swampy areas to drier plains. Within the food chain, it was a source of food for carnivores, but at the same time, thanks to its size and armament, it was also a strong opponent. Its role in the ecosystem was similar to that played by large herbivores such as elephants today. It formed the basis of a stable environment and influenced the lives of many other species through its movements. Although the colors of the Triceratops remain a mystery, scientists are trying to estimate what it might have looked like by comparing it to today's animals. Due to its size, it did not need significant camouflage, but the coloring of the body could have other functions than just hiding from predators. Some experts believe that it had muted shades of brown, gray, or green, which helped it blend in with the surroundings of grassy plains, forests, and swamps. At the same time, such tones would protect the Triceratops from overheating and give it an unobtrusive appearance while resting or feeding. On the contrary, its head, especially its collar and horns, could be brightly colored. This color contrast would make sense in social communication. In many modern animals, bright colors serve as a signal of strength, health, or readiness to mate. For example, Triceratops could have red, blue, or yellow spots on its collar, which served for visual communication between males and females, or as a means of intimidating enemies. Although there is no direct evidence of a specific coloration, these hypotheses give paleontologists an important clue as to how to reconstruct its appearance as realistically as possible. Since its discovery in the late 19th century, the Triceratops has become one of the most depicted dinosaurs in the history of human imagination. Illustrators, modelers, sculptors, and digital artists around the world have created their ideas of what this horned colossus might have looked like. Each new scientific knowledge has pushed artistic reconstructions further, from the first cartoon images with two short legs to today's hyper-realistic digital models that depict every muscle, scale, and facial expression. Triceratops thus became not only a scientific icon, but also a symbol of the prehistoric world in popular culture. In modern films, comics, and video games, he is often portrayed as a calm but proud giant who deserves respect. Many children have the Triceratops as their favorite figure because it combines strength, protective appearance, and at the same time a certain innocence. From the point of view of visual language, it looks majestic, but there is no superficial aggression in it. Its three-horned head resembles a knight's helmet, and its collar resembles a kind of shield, giving it both a fighting and noble appearance. And that's why Triceratops have found a firm place in the hearts of people all over the world, across generations. The scientific contribution of the Triceratops cannot be overstated. Since it was first described in 1889, it has become one of the best documented dinosaurs ever. Thanks to the number of finds, paleontologists have the opportunity to study not only its skeletal structure, but also finer details such as growth lines in the bones, signs of injury, traces of diseases, or fights. These findings help scientists better understand how horned dinosaurs evolved, how their communities functioned, and what their place was in the ecosystem of the late Cretaceous. Triceratops was not just another dinosaur among many. It was a living tank, a symbol of strength, elegance, and scientific mystery. With his three horns, massive head, and uncompromising defense, he was able to stand up to a world full of danger. Its lifestyle, development, defense strategies, and role in the ecosystem show how complex the creature was, and what an important part of prehistoric nature it was. Despite its ancient existence, it still fascinates us today, and we still have something to discover. Whether you love it as a character from a movie, as a scientific phenomenon, or as a reminder of a forgotten time, one thing is certain: the Triceratops is here to stay. Not alive, but in our heads, books, and dreams. Did you like this video? Support me by subscribing, liking, and commenting. It helps me create more quality content about dinosaurs. Thank you!